Over in the Dallas passing game, we said it, big night for Geno, also a big night for Dak. Completes 29 of 41 passes, 299 yards, 3 touchdowns. He also had 7 carries for 22 yards, a big run at the end. Jay, I mean, Dak Prescott legitimately in the MVP conversation now.
Yep, no, he is right there. And, I mean, he was magnificent again last night. He's just in such a zone at the moment. And what to me stands out, one, the accuracy, but just his mobility as well, these designed runs. We talked about in the preseason, that he kind of disappeared from Dak's game. But this is just the healthiest and the most spry that he's looked since he broke that ankle in such gruesome fashion. He looks like he is better than he's ever been. And in terms of the MVP, I mean, like Jalen Hurts is the favorite to win MVP right now. You know why Jalen Hurts is the favorite to win MVP? Because MVS dropped a pass and Gabe Davis he ran the wrong route. If those two plays go differently,
right.
Jalen Hurts
and Luke Schoonemaker's knee hits, a nanosecond before the ball crosses the goal line.
Exactly. And I think, look, MVP is so tied to who gets the 1 seed and who has the most wins. I just think that is just such an antiquated way to look at this award. Let's focus on what the quarterbacks can actually control themselves. And Dak Prescott, the way he is playing right now, like he's first in the league in QBR. Hurts is 7th. He's second in the league in passer rating. Hurts is 12th. EPA per play, Dak is 2nd. Hurts is 7th. Hurts has 13 turnovers. Dak has 6. Like, there's just no argument for Jalen Hurts outside of wins. And Hurts should get a lot of credit for how he's played in the clutch, and he's having a good season. But the other thing, too, with Hurts is that, so in terms of expected points added, 17% of Hurts' value on the season has come from the tush push, which I think he should get credit for because he is a big part of why that play works. But so is Kelsey in the offensive line of the Eagles.
Sure.
So I think on merit, I mean, I'm higher on Brock Purdy than most. I would have Purdy and Dak as the 2 best MVP guys because they have the best stats. But Dak is right there, and Dak, he will be the favorite in everyone's eyes if he beats Jalen Hurts on Sunday Night Football next week.
It's gaining a lot of traction, too. Dak was asked about it right after the game, and we got to hear from him on being in that MVP combo.
No difference when they're hating me and calling for me to my position, honestly. I'm blessed. I'm super blessed. And, I think about that each and every day that I wake up. I'm grateful for that opportunity to do that, and I go and attack the day that I understand nobody's opinion defines me. And that's the great part about life, and that's the great opportunity that we all have, that people can say whatever they want. But I have the pen, I have the paper, and I'm the one writing. So because I'm playing as well as I am now doesn't mean that I'm going to stop, doesn't mean I'm going to listen to them now, appreciate them. But I don't care about their opinions right now any more than I did when they said that, when they're calling for my spot.
So first off, everyone's opinions make me, he's like no one's opinion. I'm the anti-Dak Prescott. The other thing is Connor, we got to get you that jacket.
I love that jacket.
He looked great jacket. There. MVP jacket. I'll give you another case. I think just a narrative-based case for you on Dak, because I agree with you. I mean, he's played as well as any quarterback in the NFL over the last 5-6 weeks. If the Cowboys continue having the season they're having, and again, they're going to need to beat Philadelphia. That's a huge game, right? But if they do, and they end up with the 1 seed, right? Oh, they're going to want to honor this team somehow. This team is one of the elite teams in the NFL, and they're going to want to honor this team. I don't think there's any way McCarthy wins Coach of the Year.
No.
There's no
he's got a stench.
He's got people think they're winning in spite of him. They'll give credit to Dan Quinn, whatever. Too much talent.
There's better stories.
There's better stories out there. He's not great with the media, McCarthy. It's just McCarthy's never winning Coach of the Year. So now you're like, okay, it's either MVP or Offensive Player of the Year for CeeDee Lamb, right? My guy Aites, and he made a strong case there. But I think that assuming he continues on the path that he's on, you have to honor Tyreek Hill somehow.
Yes.
And so now you're like, okay, well, if Tyreek Hill's winning Offensive Player of the Year, and I assume he's the favorite. I haven't looked there, but
he and McCaffrey are neck and neck,
right.
And I disagree with that. Tyreek should be the clear favorite.
Tyreek should be, but my point is, it's probably going to be one of those two guys. Yep. So then you're like, okay, right? And if Dak loses to Philadelphia, then you probably don't have an argument there. But if Dak beats Philadelphia, my question to you, Jay, is what happens if Brock Purdy goes out and beats Philadelphia this week?
Well, that's the great mystery in all this, because Brock Purdy, if you just look at his statistically, he's the clear MVP, even with Dak's numbers. Like I read out that Dak was second in a lot of these stats, like passer rating, EPA. Brock Purdy's first. And Brock Purdy, if Brock Purdy's name was Josh Allen or Joe Burrow, he would be the runaway MVP favorite because it's Brock Purdy, last pick in the draft, doesn't have a massive arm. He had those bad picks against
Shanahan
Minnesota.
robot.
It's Shanahan. He's got all these skill position players. Like, we need to reassess how we look at Brock Purdy's supporting cast because Brock Purdy his offensive line isn't any good outside of Trent Williams. The rest of the line is bad. He faces pressure. They have the 28th ranked pass protection grade by PFF. Like, he is doing this in spite of his offensive line. His skill position players have come in and out, but there is just a barrier with people with Purdy. I think that barrier will go away if he beats Philadelphia this weekend and then beats Baltimore on Monday Night Football in a couple of weeks. But you just never know if people are like, I can't vote for Brock Purdy. Whereas I do feel good about voting for Dak Prescott. So it's
Dak
interesting.
Prescott's he's a more famous guy. It's a sexier name, if you will. And yes, there is you're going to want to honor the Cowboys in some way, shape, or form. So both guys are really interesting as well. But bringing it back to fantasy here for a second, I mean, I don't know that there's really any takeaways here. The two takeaways, I think, CeeDee Lamb doing CeeDee Lamb things. My guy Aids, just continuing to crush here. But, I mean, I think what's really impressive here is another great game for Brandon Cooks. Since week 6, he's a top 20 fantasy wide receiver on a fantasy points per game basis, right? He's averaging almost 15 fantasy points per game since week 6. This is Brandon Cooks. He's scored in 5 of the 7 games so far, at least 16 fantasy points in 3 of the last 4. It's clearly this offense is rolling so well, and it's Lamb and Cooks. Like, Michael Gallup isn't even a thought here as well. And how about Jake Ferguson, who has also scored in 4 of the past 6 games? He leads all tight ends in terms of red zone targets this season. Like, he's such a big part when they get in close and they just look for him as well. Anytime he's seen at least 4 targets this season, he's averaging over 12 fantasy points per game. Jake Ferguson, I think Brandon Cooks and Jake Ferguson are both basically must start. Ferguson's absolutely a must start.
And I think Cooks kind of a star at this point. Like, he looks the part out there, and the way he's jawing with Jamal Adams.
Yeah.
He just gives them a different element to the offense, because it's a weird thing to say, but otherwise the receiving core, they're kind of just small. A little bit like CeeDee Lamb's not a massive guy. Cooks is small, and just Ferguson, just with his height and his power, he just kind of gives them an extra element that they really need. And Dak Prescott has always loved throwing to his tight end.
Correct.
So he's got that connection with Ferguson.
He embarrassed Jamal Adams in that red zone play.
It was
awesome. It was awesome. Yeah.
I would have been terrified. I would have backed down very quickly from Jamal Adams.
After a brutal start to the season, Tony Pollard also continues his run as well. Tony Pollard, anytime touchdown, that cashes, which is nice as well. 23 touches, which were the most in a game since week 3. We thought Rico Dowdle would get there. Saw a little bit of Rico Dowdle, but not enough as well. So it's a tough upcoming schedule for Pollard, but you certainly feel a lot better about him than you did a month ago.
You do feel better about the usage, but I don't know about you, Connor. He just doesn't look right to me. He's not making guys miss. He's getting like one tackle and down.
He's a more downhill runner this year, and then that outside explosiveness. Yeah, I agree, Jay. I think that the usage will carry you. Like, there's only so many running backs that are in a good offense like this that get this usage, but it definitely feels like you have to question the workload a little bit. And
he dropped the touchdown pass as well. That was right there.
Yeah, exactly. But they are starting to use. But the fact that he got that look is great, and he did catch 3 balls. So the fact that he's actually starting to get more involved in the passing game, which is weirdly didn't feel like they were using him that much early in the season. But to your point, like, he's gotten 23 goal-to-go carries this season. He scored on 3 of them. Like, that's bad. 3 for 23 is bad, right? He's scoring 13%. Like, is his rate. So you're right. Again, I'm just saying, like, he was brutal.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, you're past the trade deadline in most leagues as well. After he was fantasy-wise, he was bad at the start of the season. He's at least starting to turn this into production as well. I don't think he's going to be the top 5 guy you drafted him in but he's absolutely a usable starter, and hopefully volume continues to get him there. But I agree with you. I don't know if it's the extra weight or it's off the injury or just he isn't built to be this guy without Zeke there taking a lot of the workload. But it has not been the year we all expected for Tony Pollard. But still, you're happy with 17.3 fantasy points today. Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and Rotoworld.com. And I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched. Or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest Roto World fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.